is Dr. Anatole, and I'm driving with Mike to Sakura Buffet because they say that during the pandemia it's supposed to be open and everything is cool there. Meanwhile, we want to discuss a topic. You can introduce it.
Well, the topic for today is say what you mean.
Yeah.
This is actually kind of useful for everybody, though I will say that you get more of an impact to folks that are on the autistic spectrum, who are more easily confused by people not saying what you mean. But it also applies to normal brain pathway folks as well. As a great example, I was at my mother-in-law's house, and she has, for I want to say roughly 10 years, had a wood pile in her driveway. And it used to be that she needed the wood pile because she used a wood-burning stove in her basement. But then she changed systems, so she no longer needed the wood pile. Except she didn't do very much to get rid of the wood pile. But eventually, and this is within the last 3 months, she decided maybe I should start putting the wood out to the road when the guys that I already pay taxes to come by and pick up wood. Okay. They only pick up stuff that's in a container, whatever, a little box, a little plastic box, whatever. So she does it once or twice. She does it basically either the morning they're coming or the night before. But she is a little older than I am, and it's not exactly a comfortable task to do. So she decides that she'd like to delegate this task. Now, this is a task that she has grandchildren that live literally within 2 or 3 houses away from her that are 10 and 8. These children could do this task. You could train them to do this task if you spent more than 5 minutes on it. But she doesn't want to do that. So there's a certain part of this task that's really a do this my way. And we'll get back to what that really means. But I decided not to do that. I just started doing it a little bit at a time. I call it my more than zero philosophy. Do more than zero and eventually it all gets done. And unlike her method, which left her with the same wood pile for 9 years, now she has half of the wood pile. Over several weeks, we have gotten rid of very much of the wood. Because I just go out there and I pile up the wood at the road and they come and pick it up and it's gone. Now, here's what I mean when I say we're going to come back to say what you mean. Say what you mean in this scenario means she wanted control and didn't want to give it up. But she couldn't say whether it's because of polite society, leading everyone to be nicer to each other, supposedly because we live on top of each other, or whether it's because we're passive-aggressive people, or any number of other factors. She couldn't say, I want control of this, you're going to do it my way or not do it. But that was the actual result that she was getting, doing things quote-unquote her way. So, but she couldn't say that. Now, folks that are normal brain path people enjoy a direct message because it's very clear. Folks on the autistic spectrum don't just enjoy it, they need it. They need it to understand exactly what it is you want or need. So if you infuse your messages with sarcasm or some passive aggressiveness or any number of other things that they don't have the means or the brain pathways to fully comprehend, you end up with confused people that won't do the task you want them to do. Truly, that happens with some normal brain pathway people as well, but I've seen it literally happen with autistic people, or folks on the spectrum, I'd rather say, because some are better functioning than others. That they need to know exactly what it is, and they need to be able to hear it, because they can't always read your face. or your tone or your context.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean when I say what you mean.
Well, I can give you a few comments. This is definitely not exactly where I am an expert, quote unquote. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this just very basic psychological, emotional health. It's like learning, rather than beating around the bush, just saying what you want. That, of course, implies that you need to be aware of, knowing what you want.
Yep.
I also found that there are some people, autistic they are or not, on spectrum or not, they have some kind of pattern to them. Call it astrology if you want. Like, I have a little bit of this myself. I know I do. I know that, like, my mother has more of this. But I think it comes from two things. One is that a person may be ashamed, deeply ashamed, unaware of the shame of just asking for what they need. And the reality is that if you don't ask for what you need, you will either cause yourself depression, or you're going to cause yourself behaving in passive-aggressive ways. In other words, you will have to, in an indirect way, to explain to people around you that you don't like something. It's kind of like a cat peeing in your shoe because you didn't give them enough attention or something. By the way, I just discovered yesterday about cats that many times when they pee in your shoe is they're drawing your attention to something. It doesn't necessarily mean that they want to punish you or something.
That's right.
But that's beside the point. We're not talking about cats.
Don't worry, people do that too.
Yeah, no. I love cats. I can talk about cats all day long. But this is what I've seen in my long and eventful life, is that people sometimes, like, I know, like in India, well, anywhere in the East, societies tend to be more shame-based. Western societies are guilt-based.
Yeah.
This is a whole big topic that anyone listening to this, you can search. You can check on Wikipedia. I've forgotten, there were a couple of scientists who produced a whole body of work about which societies are guilt-based and which are shame-based. But say you grow up in a society where it is not customary, especially for women, to ask for what they want, and they've learned to ask for things in indirect ways, and and that would be a classic example of asking for something indirectly. I think that with your mother-in-law, or who it was,
Yeah, it's exactly.
yeah, she is probably not doing that. She's probably just not aware of what she wants, and she's probably also deeply stuck in her ways, and she cannot imagine that there are other ways to do something, especially something as simple as getting rid of wood.
Well, I happen to think that it's a long, she had 6 children. I think it's a long history of having control over her household in one form or another, or enough control. She had seized enough of it that she's not necessarily in a rush to give any of it back away.
Well, that is another thing. I'm not sure about. This is exactly about not asking what you want. But what happens is almost all people on the planet are not ready to have children, especially if you're straight and you're not gay. You're not planning to have children. It's just you saw a nice boyfriend to be, and you had what, and 9 months later you have a child. The moment you have a child, your life changes dramatically. Number one, which is really important, if you're a semi-normal person, you will feel responsible for the child. But more importantly, your instincts as a parent, very biological instincts, they will kick in, and your whole life is going to be organized around your children. And when that happens, and you're psychologically not mature or not strong, not ready for some reason or another, it could be because you're not spectacularly strong person, or you shouldn't really have children, but you're too unaware to know that and you couldn't resist it, blah blah blah. There are many reasons, but you get overwhelmed probably within like a month of having a child, because you have to clean, you have to bathe, you have to feed, you have to do this and that, you have a huge pile of laundry, and then if you multiply it by 6, you become probably completely crazy by the time your 6th child becomes semi-independent, like I say, at 10. So you develop these patterns. They're huge patterns, and if you had your children early, like in your early 20s, you spend your whole 20s dealing with children. And I mean, if you know anything about me, you know how affected I am by Indian culture, because I spent a lot of time in India in my 20s. I mean, my whole young adulthood was basically colored by India. I don't mind it at all, I like it. But it is the same process, if you have children in your, in your 20s, a lot of your mentality is going to be wrapped up around children. What kind of children? Young children. And then these children do what? They grow.
Hopefully.
And you still think that they are young and they need your care. Makes you a control freak.
Yeah.
And that's not a great it's not a great place to be. If you notice that my voice quivered, that's just I dropped a cap from my tea on the floor of this car. So that's 2 cents from me.
Okay.
But basically, I mean, I'm gonna do a conclusion and then I will let you conclude or continue, whatever. The most important thing, whoever you are, man, woman, child, cat, whatever, you need to learn to be direct. And I know that for Western society, whatever that means America, Europe, it's not very difficult for us to be direct. It's more people who are on the spectrum of crazy who don't know how to be direct. But in the East, in places like India, Philippines, etc., it's much harder for them to be direct because it's a shame-based society, and so you need to make an adjustment. So it's relatively harder for an Indian to be like this direct, but it doesn't mean that it's insurmountable. It makes your life so much easier, when you want to drink a glass of milk, you come to your mommy or whatever and say, I want a glass of milk, rather than, insinuate something or whatever. You can probably give better examples, Mike.
No, I think that was perfect. I think when you're hungry and you need to eat and you tell somebody, or you say, I need to eat now, or you go to the kitchen and you make yourself some food, that's direct. Any other thing you do is indirect, and when you start going in other directions other than the direct path that you're trying to go, you both distract yourself and you lead yourself to behaviors that you may not look fondly upon later.
Yeah, well, exactly. And for people who perceive like they're short on time, like me and Mike for sure, I really do not like dealing with people who are beating around the bush, and I also do not suffer fools easily. I think you are the same. In that situation, what happens? It's like when you're around a person who cannot just blurt it out and say, what do you want and what they want, it drives me crazy. And I try to avoid people like that because they drive me crazy. Unnecessarily.
It turns out life doesn't have a fast forward button.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with someone that's going to take 30 minutes to tell you something that should take about a minute, it can in fact drive me crazy.
Yeah. Well, also, you're a very smart guy, so I understand that. It's the same thing for me. I usually can, in about 1 second, know what the people will say. In 95% of the time or more, I'm right. Not always. By the way, guys, look to your left and look to your right. We're driving over the lake Chautauqua, which is a really beautiful and picturesque place here. And I'm not going to turn on this freeway because I have to go fast. But it's very beautiful. So there we go. Do you think we covered the topic, or?
I think so.
Alright, good. You guys all have a very nice day, night, morning, evening, whatever. Bye.